Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bundesliga show. We are back for some more predictions ahead of match week 21 of the Bundesliga. I am back this fine Thursday evening, slightly earlier than we usually do, but just having to move things around just to make sure that we can get a show out tonight. Joined by Mark, as ever. How are you doing on this Thursday Eve?
Servos, yeah, not bad at all. Yeah, just kind of freezing over here in Bavaria a little bit. But yeah, another weekend's upon us, isn't it? And another good weekend of Bundesliga action.
Yeah, absolutely. Really looking forward to this. Some big crunch games in match week 21. So we're going to predict it all and get stuck into it. Obviously, if you want to have your say and join in the chat, please do let us know your predictions. And if you're not watching live, which could be understandable because we've gone a little bit earlier than usual today, do make sure that you use the comment section and let us know your thoughts. And a little bit of a heads up, sadly, we won't be able to do the fantasy show tomorrow. Runa, bless his cotton socks, is very unwell. He's unwell. So we will not be able to do a show for you guys tomorrow. So we'll just do a load of social posts on social media to make sure that it's all covered off for you guys, and you get what you need. You get that fix to make sure that your fantasy team is set up correctly. But yeah, into match week 21. Then we go. Friday night game. Mark, we're going to have Bayern taking on Werder Bremen in what promises to be a game that Bayern should be able to dominate a lot of the ball and probably be on the front foot for a great deal of it. It's also a good thing for them that they can go first in this title race, so they'll feel that they are able to put a good amount of pressure onto Leverkusen, no doubt, who are playing late, in the Pokal, which we can talk about a little bit as well, because certainly last night was a crazy game. But yeah, just do this game quickly. Obviously, Werder missing some players because of their double red card incidents last weekend. So I think this is looking like a fairly likely Bayern win. As strong as Werder have been, the season, I don't think that they're going to get past Bayern in the Allianz. So I'd slot in 3-1, I reckon.
Yeah, I think, as you mentioned, Roy, I think you mentioned the key point that obviously Werder's nightmare injury time against Mainz last week has definitely weakened their position going into this, with obviously, who was it, Stark and Friedel both sent off like deep into stoppage time. And I think also Oli Werner will also be serving a touchline ban as well.
He will.
And to be honest, that does surprisingly make a lot of difference when the manager's not there with the players. Teams often tend to play quite poorly when the coach is, even though I don't really think it affects much technically or tactically, but I just think it's the kind of feeling of not having the coach on the sideline. A lot of players kind of sink a little bit in that case, and he's not there to give immediate instructions face to face. So, yeah. And obviously Bayern, they should be able to win this game ultimately. I was hoping that, I say hoping, but that maybe Werder will be able to put up more of a challenge in this game. But I feel as though the weakened defense is going to be really tough, especially Friedel, who's basically a very good defender, and he's been one of their key men this season as well. So I'm going to go for a 3-0, unfortunately, here, to disappoint a few people who might be hoping for a closer game. One thing in favour of Werder, though, don't forget that Werder did win in the Allianz last year as well. They put in a brilliant defensive performance, and that was actually one of the first big kind of cracks in Bayern's season last year. And I think it was round about the same time of the year, too, so there is hope for Werder. They do have recent good form at the Allianz, but I just think it'll be too tough with too many men off at the minute. So I'm going to go 3-0 Bayern.
Do you want to lead on this one?
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, what a game. Obviously, it's a massive kind of, normally a game that would be on TV, wouldn't it, really, which is a bit weird that this is a a 3:30 kickoff. But I do like that in the Bundesliga, to be fair, that not all the big games are automatically TV games. I think it's good for the fans, because we all know the Bundesliga fans prefer Halbvier on a Saturday afternoon, But basically, yeah, the game's very important because it's massive for the top four race. Some people would argue that Dortmund haven't really earned the right to be considered being part of the top four race so far this season. Obviously, sitting currently in 11th place before this weekend. But if you look at the number of points, it's not that much. So you have to consider them as a key part of the top four race. As for Stuttgart, obviously they lost the form with 3 defeats in a week, didn't they? Including Bundesliga losses against Mainz and Gladbach last week as well. But they did bounce back to a certain extent with a kind of workmanlike win over Augsburg in midweek, where obviously Dennis Undav got, I think his first goal, his second goal actually. It was his second one in successive 1-0 wins over Augsburg. So he'll be looking to kick on, because he's not been that good since he came back from injury for me overall. But for Stuttgart, this is a team that they play very well against. We were talking about form in the last game, and Stuttgart have won the last 4 meetings between these sides, including 3 last season and 1 already this year, where they won 5-1 in the reverse fixture. So, this is a game where Dortmund don't like the sight of the VfB. And I think me and you, Rory, we all remember fondly the game when Silas destroyed them as well in the 2021 season.
Yeah.
So they do have a good record there at the Signal Iduna Park. So having said that, I just feel as though the matchup really works well for the VfB in this one. I just think I am going to go for an away win here. Some might be shocked, but there should be goals in this one. But neither defenses are doing particularly well at the minute. And I think Guirassy will definitely want to get one over his former employers, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him score. But I just feel as though the likes of Undav and Furyk could come good in this game. And I'm going to go for a 3-2 away win here. Rory?
That sounds lovely. Wouldn't say no. It's a tough match. Dortmund's home form, although in their last 5 matches, if you include all competitions, Dortmund's home form isn't as strong. But going to Signal Iduna Park is not an easy feat against any Dortmund side. Funnily enough, Stuttgart's away form in all competitions in their last 5 is pretty strong as well, if you exclude the 2-0 loss to Mainz. Just an element of confidence would have come back with that midweek scrap with Augsburg. I struggling to call this one, to be honest, but I'll slot in a 2-2. I don't have enough confidence that VfB will get the job done, but that's me just trying to work my way around me jinxing my own side. I suspect it'll be a good game and an interesting follow on Saturday afternoon. For sure. Moving on to another Saturday game. Hoffenheim taking on FC Union. So I just want to bring in a couple of tips that we've got as well from Rudy, saying 3-1 Bayern Werder. Yeah, so we're online there. And we've got Dortmund winning 2-1. Stuttgart had an English week, looks pretty exhausted against Augsburg and didn't really earn the 1-0 victory. So, we've got all kind of variety of results there, haven't we? We've got a draw, an away win and a home win from Broody. So, thank you for your comments. Looking forward to seeing more of your predictions. Hoffenheim, Union. Neither side really inspire or have inspired this season at all. Hoffenheim are in a weird period of form, Mark. Like, obviously, they won in Europa. They had a couple of draws here and there. They beat Kiel, which they needed to do. And aside from that Union victory against Mainz, they've really not had any kind of bounce at all, since Baumgart has come in the door, in the head coach door. So I have no great deal of confidence calling this, but the fact that Hoffenheim are at home and have goals in their team, and something that Union do not have. I would say a home win. I would probably say 2-0, although Union's opportunity might be slightly open ajar if Baumann still is absent. Mark, what do you reckon?
It's a tough one to tip, this, isn't it? Two under-firing teams this season. Neither of them are having a good season by any means this year. But for me, I agree that Hoffenheim are definitely the team on more form at the minute. And, they have been pretty good in recent weeks, but you still worry about that defence, don't you? They still ship goals. And as you mentioned, Philip hasn't really convinced me in net from what I've seen. So they definitely need the stalwart Baumann back between the sticks this weekend. Union just don't score. It's as simple as that. It feels as though the gods contrived this season that Union just weren't going to score goals. And obviously we have seen Vertessen and Jordan both leave the club, which for me is zero loss on either of them, basically. But the problem is they've not really brought anyone better in. So it's just, we saw Pretayin start last week, and for as good as he was in the Zweite Liga, he doesn't look Bundesliga class, or at least he didn't last week. Then obviously Hollerbach, who runs, and he has a bit of skill about him, but he still barely scores, really, So I am actually going to go for a 1-1 draw in this game, though. I just feel as though the pressure on Hoffenheim might be a bit much. And because they're still in a scrap, they're only 4 points clear of the bottom three. And Hoffenheim haven't been winning this kind of game this season. I think Union, they were a little bit better, at least defensively last week against Leipzig. Let's not forget that. So I think it could be a game where it finishes 1-1. So moving on to a Baden-Württemberg derby, actually. This is going to be an interesting game between FC Freiburg and FC Heidenheim. So, Freiburg, as we mentioned, they're not always the best team, are they? But they do win games. It's as simple as that. And they're very, very effective from corners. We keep seeing those fullbacks get goals. Kubler, Günther, and obviously Sildilia last week getting his first goal of the season from the corner as well. And obviously Heidenheim, it is tough on them. It is tough. We've seen Zivzivadze hasn't really had the impact we might have wanted. I think Kretzig has been a lot better. Although it seems that he's playing a much more advanced position for Heidenheim than he normally does as a typical left back. We've been seeing him play on the left wing and even as an attacking midfielder at times. But I still feel as though this is a game which should be won by the home team. I think Freiburg do normally win these kind of home games, and they normally score a few goals as well against the weaker teams in the league. So I'm going to go for a 3-1 home win here for Freiburg. What do you think, Rory?
Yeah, very fair bet. Freiburg, with those creative players, will really knock on the door of that Heidenheim defence, which is ultimately quite a weak one. And whether it's through Grifo or it's Doan or Dinci, or maybe even, Holler, will have, his shooting boots on. I think Freiburg have the quality to unpick a Heidenheim side that are super low on confidence. Like you say, despite a couple of interesting signings, I think, it has to be a 3-1 home win, maybe even 3-0. On to another, Saturday afternoon game, another biggie. And it's Wolfsburg taking on Bayer Leverkusen. Of course, Leverkusen were involved in a classic last night, weren't they? First of all, Mark, thoughts on that game? It was an enjoyable one to follow and watch.
Yeah, wow, it really was. It was a classic derby. And first, I've got to pay my respects to Köln. They did the Zweite Liga very proud. And I thought they were absolutely brilliant throughout the game. And they were unlucky ultimately to lose. But again, it's against this unbelievable, wily Leverkusen side who just find a way time after time. And they were unlucky, Köln. They really were. But ultimately, Leverkusen, as they pretty much always do, they managed to find a way. And But Köln can really hold their heads high, and I do expect that we'll see an immediate return for them to the Bundesliga because they've really start playing well under Struber, and I feel as though they're the best team in this fighter Liga at the minute, and it'll be good to see them back hopefully in a few months' time. But great game, great for German football, and another cup classic involving Leverkusen.
Yeah, the Pokal just produces all the time, doesn't it? It's a great competition, and something that we look forward to when it comes around, and Leverkusen into another semi-final. VfB fans like myself will be very keen to avoid them in the draw. About this game, it's an intriguing one for sure. Wolfsburg have showed real improvement this season, despite obviously the fact that they're not even inside the top half of the table, is quite a weird one to kind of get your head around. But the top, top third of the league, if you exclude Bayern, Leverkusen, and even Frankfurt, from fourth place down to 11 is just stupidly tight. So it's hard to kind of get a complete clarity on that. Regardless, it will be a big game. Leverkusen, obviously, with a lot of minutes in their legs, including European adventures. Obviously, Xabi will no doubt rotate the team as much as he is able to. Interesting to see who gets the nod between Paddy Schick and Victor Boniface, who will lead the line. Could surprise us all and go with two up top. I think this will definitely be a back and forth game, much like it was, the first time around this season in that 4-3 game, which was crazy. And Leverkusen doing another Leverkusen job on Wolfsburg that time around. So, it will be a game full of quality, full of attacking quality. I maybe just think that Leverkusen will have an edge just because of the team that they are, and Wolfsburg do have, those underwhelming performances still in their locker. And if they're not at 100% or even more, then the Leverkusen side are just better than them. So I think it will be a close one, but I'll throw in 2-1 away win.
Yeah, this is one of the harder ones of the week to tip because, as I've mentioned a few times on this show, I do rate this Wolfsburg team, and I feel as though at times the results haven't been as good as the performances. And I thought they were quite good again at Frankfurt. We saw a different side to them at Frankfurt. They were quite resolute and hard to break down, and obviously they just got undone towards the end of the game again. Admittedly, it was a deserved equaliser by that time from Chanuzun from Frankfurt, but still, it was still a very disciplined and good performance from Wolfsburg that they couldn't quite get the win, which would have pushed them a bit higher up the table. This is going to be a hard game, but it is made easier the fact that the turnaround is very minimal for what Leverkusen are going to get here, because obviously they played late, very, very late into Wednesday evening, almost 12 o'clock when that game finished last night due to pyro delays and things like that. Yeah. And they had to use the whole squad for that game as well. I mean, it was a strong team that Leverkusen went with. I mean, Paddy Schick did the full shift. That a lot of Wirtz, who was unbelievable on the night as well against his hometown club, was absolutely brilliant. But he's going to have taken its toll, and they've got to go up against a strong Wolfsburg team barely 2.5 days after that game. So for me, unfortunately for the title race, I do see Leverkusen dropping points. I don't think they'll lose because they never lose, basically, especially on the road. But I think we'll see a 2-2 draw here. I really do. So, moving forward, Mainz, Augsburg. I think a few weeks ago you would have said this was an absolute home banker, wouldn't you, really? But I've got to say what Torp has done at Augsburg is really tightened them up. And I think they did themselves proud, against Stuttgart in the Cup in midweek. And they could easily have had an equaliser in that last 20 minutes, to be honest. A few really good saves from Nubel, Stuttgart. And looking at this, I mean, Mainz have dropped off a little bit, not massively, but I think they have lost 3 out of 4 actually now since that really good run over the Christmas period and just after into January. So this is a game where Augsburg will feel as though they got some sort of chance, to be honest. But Yeah, I'm still going to back the home side though, just simply because, you know, they are a strong home team, and I just feel as though there's a little bit more quality in that mind side. Although Augsburg, you know, the likes of Maurice, Ascende, I've been impressed with a lot of Onyeka. They are playing well at the minute, but I just feel as though the likes of, you know, Sieb, Amiri are going to come good in this game and get them a 2-1 win. What do you think, Rory?
Yeah, I think it will be a close game. Like you say, probably in weeks gone by, you would have thought it would have been a real easy one for the home side. But I think this might be a draw, actually. I think Augsburg have just showed up all of a sudden, shut up shop, sorted out their defence somewhat, made some decent acquisitions, throughout January. And yeah, I can see it definitely being a draw. No Johnny B for Mines as well, although they've been coping without him for, many other games also. So yeah, I'll lock in a 1-1 draw myself. Over to the top spiel on Saturday, and yeah, two big clubs involved in this one. Borussia Mönchengladbach are at home to Frankfurt. I mean, this is an interesting one because it will really demonstrate either way around the validation or the qualities of Gladbach to be a European team again, or to be in contention to be in those European spots, I think. Frankfurt obviously still have a bit of a cushion in third place over fourth placed Leipzig, still 5 points. And that's quite fortuitous, really, for Frankfurt, because they have dropped a few points themselves. And it's really the fortunes of other sides that have maybe kept, that third place quite comfortable still. Again, this will be a close game because Gladbach will be feeling good about themselves and the way that they've been playing. Really impressed with their away win, against Stuttgart last time out. Obviously, no involvement in the Pokal. Same goes to Frankfurt, at least this week. So, I think it will be. I want to sit on the fence again. I think I feel a draw here. I will say 2-2. I think. Just not quite clicking for Frankfurt. The pressure on Ekitike. Depends how the new man comes in as well, Wahi. So, Frankfurt naturally just having a little bit of a drop-off, but not a huge one at all. They're still in very safe and capable hands. But yeah, I shall lock in an entertaining draw.
Yeah, I was tempted to go for 2-2 as well, Rory, in this one, because I just feel as though Gladbach have really upped the game again in recent weeks. And Frankfurt, it's not that they're playing bad, but they are missing the brilliance of Marmoush, I'm going to be honest. I've watched the last two games, and to be honest, they were kind of lucky not to lose both in some ways, really. Hoffenheim, I felt, dominated them for long periods 2 weeks ago. And then, Wolfsburg were comfortable until Grabara went off injured, really, I would say. And then they kind of lost a bit of confidence after that. So I'm actually tempted to go for a home win here for Gladbach. Gladbach are a streaky team. We know that. They rarely have good runs, but if they can win this, the carrot is well and truly there, because they go into the Champions League race if they win this, without doubt. Yeah. They'd only be a few points behind Frankfurt and even less behind fourth place Stuttgart potentially. So I am going to go for a 3-1 home win. I just think they'll turn it on under the lights and really kind of transform their season on the back of that 2-1 win over Stuttgart last week. And they have got a great squad at the end of the day, so it's absolutely not impossible they could go on and win this game. So I'm going to go back my boys. I've been tipping them up all season, so I've got to stick with them, and they're going to win 3-1 against the SGE here. Then maybe one of the games that won't attract too many neutrals, but I mean, for me and you, Rory, I'm sure we'll be looking forward to this one. It's definitely one that I'm quite excited for on Sunday afternoon between Kiel and Bochum, because this is the definition of a 6-pointer. It's the bottom two in the league. And for me, like, Kiel have been the better side by a distance out of these two this year, but it's just that, inexperience at this level. They've got very, very few players that have played Bundesliga before this season. I think only our boy Lewis Holtby really has experience at this level. But, they have been very good, but it's just whether they can take the pressure of this game, because should they win, if our prediction's right that Heidenheim lose in Freiburg, they will go into the playoff spot. And if you offered that to them now, they would take that happily, because they would, the odds are on their side, because, generally Bundesliga teams do win that playoff, basically. Bochum on the road have been abject basically the entire season. They barely scored any goals on the road. If you look at the XG, it's barely ever come above 1 on the road either. And most times it's been below 0.5, 0.3. So they have just struggled completely on the road. They have been a little bit better in general in recent weeks, but it's not enough to stop me from backing our boys. I think me and you, Rory, we've kind of got a bit of a soft spot now for Kiel, really, in recent weeks. And I'm going to back our boy Phil Harris and Shuto Machino to shoot Kiel to a massive win. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 home win. Rory?
Yeah, can absolutely see that happening. I'm sure Kiel will come out of the blocks very, very strongly, obviously in front of a roaring home crowd. The Holstein Stadion, and be on the front foot. You can imagine them having a lot of the ball, and versus what they did in terms of their setup versus Bayern. Of course, they went much more defensive, set up a block in midfield, like that 4-5-1 sort of formation, with Machino as on the bench for Bayern, and very understandably, because you don't want to go to Munich and get absolutely blown away, and they still conceded 4 goals. For this one, you'd imagine there'll be a bit more attacking and want to score those goals. The only thing I'm slightly concerned about from a Kiel point of view is that these games, these relegation 6-pointer matches, are often not very pretty, are often the battle, very gritty. And I just think that's something that suits Bochum. So if it is that type of game, I could see Bochum getting a draw or maybe even a shock result. But, if it's one of those open affairs where it's, attack versus attack, I think Kiel would outscore the VfL. So, I think my heart and head says a home win, but I would say 2-1. I'm sure it'll be a good Sunday watch, as especially for us Bundesliga lovers. Absolutely. And then last game of the weekend presents Leipzig taking on FC St. Pauli in the RB Arena. If you exclude the Pokal match that they had between each other this season, the previous encounter was a 0-0 draw at the Millantor, and it was a very well played 0-0 from a Pauli perspective. And we've seen their improvements throughout the season, and maybe even Pauli probably don't have the points that maybe their performances deserve. We've seen the rise to form of certain players going forward now for Pauli. Your likes of Gilavugi and Co, Eggestein, Afolayan, and the loanee as well is his name escapes me right now. The Freiburg loanee, he's done well since coming into the team. So
Weishaupt,
Weishaupt, that's it. Yeah, of course. So that all screams, great opportunity against the Leipzig side that I just don't know what they're going to do week to week. They're a bit, they're not as bad as Dortmund in terms of what they're doing this season, but their inconsistencies, their weird draws, their, the form of Openda and Šeško, how much they struggled without, Xavi Simons. It sort of just stands to reason that I don't know how to call this one. But I will say a tight game is just won by the home side. I would say 2-1 myself.
Yeah, for me, I think the Sunday games, generally Leipzig tend to play better. I mean, obviously myself and Peter were at the game when Leipzig won 2-1 against Frankfurt, and they were brilliant that day. And then let's not forget, just a few weeks ago as well, when we came back after the break, they won impressively 4-2 against Werder as well. So sometimes I think those omens can work in your favour. And I think Leipzig at home, they are definitely better. I mean, they were absolutely woeful at Union last week. And to be honest, if they were playing any other team, they would have lost that game, basically. And they really were bad. And I think Marco Rosa came out and basically said he got it wrong in that game, And you do wonder where Rosa is at this point, really. I mean, the fans still seem to be behind him, actually. But whether the board are getting tired with this, barely scraping Champions League every year, I don't know. I think there's a lot of pressure on him to win the Pokal, to be honest. I think if he can win that, it tightens him up a little bit. But I think after the Champions League failure to mount a title challenge this year, then they probably will get top four still, but it's it's not ideal really. But I think they will get a comfortable home win here. I'm going to go 3-0 in this one for the RBL. So let's just have a quick look at the table just before we finish today. So it would be, if Rory's correct, it would be Leverkusen staying within 6 points of Bayern, which could be huge considering Bayern's difficult run upcoming. They do play 3 of the top 4, don't they, famously? So after this game anyway, then Frankfurt potentially just keeping a decent lead over the top 4, really, with a 4-point lead from Stuttgart, who will be 5th should they beat Dortmund. Then looking at the bottom 3, we've not seen much change the whole season down there, to be honest, but this could potentially be a big weekend with Kiel coming out of the bottom 2 for probably the first time this season, I would imagine. I don't ever remember there being another time when they were out the bottom 2, at least since the first 2 or 3 weeks anyway. So, would be huge for Kiel to potentially go there. But if Hoffenheim win, it would take a bit of the shine off, because it would still mean there's a 6-point gap from complete safety, wouldn't it? But Union will be absolutely not safe at that point should these results come to fruition. So thanks for joining us, guys, this week. So if you enjoyed what you saw, then don't forget to like, comment, and turn on the subscriptions. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at @OverTheBarFB, and also on X and Threads at @OverTheBarFB. So as Rory said, we won't have a fantasy show, unfortunately, tomorrow, but check out our socials for our tips, and we'll see you again on Monday for the next show. So thank you very much, guys, and servus. Bye-bye.
Cheers all.